Desperate times call for desperate measures. In that I am now just looking up how to trigger more arcade Ganon storyline, and I'll cycle through them as I can. But like, it's feeling pretty late in the storyline around the time the fucking president of the NCR gets assassinated. Let's try to find places I haven't been yet that trigger interactions with these characters, or it'll just never happen at this rate. Because damn, they made it as hard as possible. Even the unlimited supporters thing didn't really help out. On some level, part of the problem is probably the fact that I feel like the game's structure incentivizes you to slowly carve your way across that whole swath of land off in that direction without necessarily reaching Vegas. And like, you could just go straight to Vegas, but it felt natural to deal with the storylines as they were being presented to me. But I think it's becoming more and more clear that, like, over time, that, like, a lot of the stuff that I went through would have had prompts for these characters. But you don't meet any of these characters for the most part. I think I could have gotten Cassie sooner. Cassie. But maybe not, because I think that might have been involved in a storyline that started in Vegas. And Arcade was in Vegas. Veronica's the earliest besides our robot. And that Veronica was in Route 88 outpost or whatever. But that was still like several towns deep, essentially. But at this point, we're just running off the road into strange parts of the map that I would not have that I hopefully haven't discovered yet, and seeing what we can trigger with those. I'm hearing a beeping sometimes. I'm not totally clear on what that is. But we're looking for a crashed vertibird. Because as long as we played so far, which is over 100 episodes, it would take some next level careful map scraping to find every point of interest that is out there. Although there is the whole that perk that puts them on your map. But then I wouldn't necessarily know which ones are worth investigating or which ones are new. That's a lot of enemy robots. Ow. Boy, are some of these guys doing damage on hard mode. Wow. Calm down. Ow.
A vertibird. Interesting. It's been a long time since I've seen one of these.
When was that?
Huh. Good question. Must have been in a book.
Oh, yeah?
I need to talk to you about something, if you have a minute.
Sure.
Any day now? Caesar's going to try to march across Hoover Dam and kick NCR out of the Mojave. We're getting caught up in something important out here. Hell, after how you handled Benny, you're practically right in the middle of all this. I know I'm just along for the ride, but it's made me think about the past and how I might be able to help out.
Wow, it triggered it just like that, huh? Okay. What are you talking about?
I wasn't always with the followers. or with the NCR. My late father was an officer in a group called the Enclave, a remnant of America's pre-war government. Memories being short around here, not a whole lot of people remember them. But they did bad things. Terrorized communities, kidnapped people. Eventually someone stopped them. I was born a few years later at a military base on the coast, a place called Navarro.
What happened to Navarro?
After the Enclave's command structure fell apart, it was only a matter of time before Navarro was overrun by NCR forces. My mother and I left with some of the troopers from my father's old unit, the same people I've kept in contact with over the years. Anyone who didn't get out was killed by the NCR. Even some of the ones who escaped were eventually hunted down by the Brotherhood of Steel.
Damn. Enclave, Brotherhood of Steel, and NCR, just no love lost between any of them. Where'd the Enclave go?
A lot of different places. I only know what I was told. Some of them were cut down by the NCR and the Brotherhood. Some of them went east. My mother never told me what happened to my father, but she and I went south with some others and integrated into the NCR. When the NCR learned that Enclave personnel had integrated, we kept moving to the fringes. It's one of the reasons why I wound up out here.
Where are you going with all this?
The Enclave did a lot of bad things, but there were good people at Navarro. Good people with a lot of experience. Not many of them are alive anymore, but I think they can make a difference in the fight against Caesar.
You want them to help NCR?
That's a hard question to answer. I know I don't want the Legion to take Hoover Dam. So militarily, yes, I want them to help NCR. If possible, I'd like to figure out a way to help the NCR win Hoover Dam without holding New Vegas.
Say no more. I'll do it.
Great. I'd like you to talk to the old-timers, the remnants. I don't think I can convince them by myself. To them, I'm still a kid. But you're a big part of what's happening out here. When you talk to them, they'll understand how important this all is. I've kept in contact with them over the years, so I know where you can find them. But I doubt they'll open up to you unless I come along. I know I'm not always the most serious guy around, but this means a lot to me. Thanks.
I know I'm not always the most serious guy around. I wish you guys had more defined personalities and kind of interacted more. Some of them kind of do. Honestly, like Raul has one of the better defined personalities of the group. A lot of these characters, just, like, especially in Ganon's case, I almost never can get him to talk, like, at all. Like, even when I met him, he basically wouldn't talk. So I'm constantly just like, what does this guy want from me? Like, how do I make this character more of a character? So now we've got Auld Lang Syne. So we're gonna go around and find a bunch of different members of the Enclave. I have reason to think that one of the people here was an Enclave member because, well, he wasn't here to react to it. You were. Eddie was. This is where we triggered one of Eddie's memories. Interesting that there's overlap between two companions there.
Is there something else I can do for you?
Arcade Ganon has asked me to gather all the former members of the Enclave in the Mojave.
I'm intrigued, so I'll go to this reunion. I'll be handing things over to Calamity, so talk to her if anything comes up. Oh, you'll need my word from the passphrase to get into the bunker. Friends. Don't forget it.
Doc Henry always was a hard one to figure out. It didn't seem to matter whether he was working with humans or dogs. He had an equal lack of affection for both. A regular Diogenes. I'm not sure what the man was after. Knowledge is power, but to what end for Henry, I have no idea. The problem was what mattered to him, not its practical impact. He simply solved riddles because they existed.
Seems pointless to do all that without a goal.
I'm sure Henry has goals. He was just more concerned with the how than the why of things. Being in the Enclave didn't really mean much to him. I guess I'm lucky that I'm part of the followers. Helping people as a doctor is important, but with the followers, it feels different. It feels like we're working towards something more important. That's more than the sum of the good deeds that we do.
He sounds upsetting. Didn't matter if he's working with humans or dogs. He had an equal level of dispassion for both. I'm like, I want them to care more than that. Maybe this will be where we get some context for Arcade. So I hear he's a lot of people's favorite character. And I have not really gotten much context for that. And I've been hoping for it. I've been looking for it. I'm like, what's up with this character? What's his deal? And then he just like will not talk to me. Like when you recruit him, he says basically nothing to you. There's basically nothing he will say to you, which is frustrating. And then there has not been any development there, really. I think he has the least dialogue out of any character I've recruited.
Don't mind trailblazing as long as we got the ammo. And
your travel's been going all right?
Arcade asked me to find you. I'm reuniting the remnants, and we'll need your piloting skills.
Told you everything about us, did he? Well, it's been a while since I've had my hands on the controls of a vertibird. There's a chance I could crash us in the middle of Lake Mead. That place seems to attract aircraft for some reason. But if I get one more chance to fly, count me in. I'll be there. My part of the passphrase is dear.
How do you like flying vertibirds for the Enclave?
I was never happier than when I was in the cockpit. I was able to go just about anywhere and everywhere, limited only by the fuel I could carry. There were more than a few missions where I took the scenic route home just so I could stay in the air. Caught hell for it every time, but worth it. Some of the things we did were questionable, I know. That's just how it was back then. Figure I've done enough good to make up for any sins, anyhow. Watch your six out there.
whiskey.
Whiskey?
Since my mother died, Daisy's been the only woman in my life. She was the only other woman close to my father, too. She flew him out on over a dozen missions, including his last. I've always been close to Daisy. There have been some good men along the way, but lovers make poor confidants. Daisy never had children of her own, so she was always there to listen. Being in the Enclave didn't mean much to her. She just loved to fly. It broke her heart to be grounded.
It was an important part of her life. Why shouldn't she enjoy it?
As screwed up as it sounds, at least she was a part of something. Granted, it was something admittedly pretty bad, but it was something. If you spent the first half of your life flying Enclave troopers in a vertibird, I suppose picking over pre-war rocket parts doesn't quite compare.
Lovers make poor confidants. This seemed like poor choice in lovers. They can't be confidants, then who the fuck? I knew he was gay, but that might be the first time the game has directly confirmed it. I don't remember. That's always a neat detail. Hell, a game from the year this came out, even having gay characters is a neat detail. One of the things that I think quietly drew me towards BioWare games was the inclusion of gay characters. Cannibal Johnson's Cave. The fuck do you just say to me? Well, let's go check out Cannibal Johnson. Oh, no, that's who we're here for. Sir? Why do they call you Cannibal Johnson? I'll give you 2 guesses. Oh, there was a trap. I missed it. That's mole rat meat. I don't know about cannibal then.
Cornered in the ruins of Boulder City, and the NCR killed him. It's like Bitter Springs all over again.
It's always like Bitter Springs.
Well, it's about damn time. What took you? Oh.
Oh.
I've been in the Reaper's shadow for a long time now, and I thought he'd finally showed up to collect. He's just mocking me now.
You sound like you're eager to die.
There's a twitch in my trigger finger. I've lost my eagle eyes, and the other day I could have sworn I heard Sergeant Dornan chewing me out. I'm old and I'm starting to feel it. It's not pleasant, especially when you know your mind's slipping away. And we all gotta go sometime. But I was hoping for something a little more heroic.
I'm under the impression that mind problems can be prevented to some extent by being engaged, especially socially, and actually like doing stuff. And so trapping yourself in a cave is probably not a great mental strategy. Who's Sergeant Dornan?
He was a drill instructor I knew. He was also the meanest bastard I've ever known. Once he caught this private out of uniform, and old Dornan went off on the most ear-blistering rant known to man. It was inspiring.
You served in the military?
Yeah. It was a long time ago. Things were better back then.
Tell me about yourself.
What do you want to know?
So, are you a cannibal?
Ha! I'm not saying. It's part of my mystique, after all.
Sounds like there's an interesting story behind it.
The truth of it is that I did cut out a raider's heart, but only took a bite to mess with his buddies. They had me surrounded, and I went with the first thing that came to mind. Some ran, and the rest were startled just long enough.
You live out here by yourself?
Sure do. Had a wife for a while. Tribal girl, really pretty eyes. But she's been gone a long time now.
Arcade asked me to gather all the remaining members of the Enclave in the Mojave.
Thought I recognized the fellow with you. So what's this reunion all about then?
He thinks your experience and technology will help resolve the conflict in this region.
Well, now there's an interesting idea. Do a bit of good before we're all dead and forgotten. You can count me in. Oh, and in case Arcade forgot to mention it, there's a 5-word passphrase needed to get into the bunker. My word is old. Appropriate, huh?
Was that line echoey when
If
the other
I
ones
had to
weren't?
pick anyone who didn't belong in the Enclave, it would definitely be Johnson. He hated what the Enclave was doing. Day to day, week to week, he would question orders, subvert mission objectives, do anything he could to serve without serving. It's amazing he was never court-martialed. He always had good things to say about my father. Said I was like him in a lot of ways. I wish I knew.
I'm sure your father would be proud of you.
I wonder if he would. It's pointless, I know, but sometimes I wonder what he wanted me to be. Maybe being a doctor in the middle of Nevada wasn't exactly what he had in mind for his little boy.
Well, Cannibal Johnson. Magician posters? A bunch of them, actually. What is this generator attached to? Just those Christmas lights? That's not attached to wires. Why did he insist on moving out here? He has 2 generators attached to goofy Christmas lights over some dumb posters. Dean Domino. This is what he lives off of? Bunch of night stalkers, mole rats, an upsetting pool of blood with a coyote in it. Shouldn't they be more... I mean, I guess they don't really have, like, the ability to show, like, gutted animals and other stuff that's been dealt with for the purpose of surviving. He seems kind of chill. So he dealt with some raiders, and he fucking ripped one of their hearts out of their bodies and bit into it as, like, a big show. And he got a reputation for that because it scared them off. That's kind of funny. something over here to the north. I don't know if it's inside or outside the gate. It's interesting how much of his, like, support group is this series of old people from this one organization that he's still attached to. Seems he's not in there, going by the indicator. Or he is. Oh, it was pointing me at that door, wasn't it? You can often walk to a door in 8 East Rafe to tell how close you are to your objective.
Looks like I forgot to lock the doors again. If you're with the NCR, get out. This place is mine, and I'm not leaving.
You have something against the NCR?
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. The NCR makes a habit out of wrecking homes. I came out here to get away from them. Didn't work out so well. Next thing I know, I'm squatting in their land. Never mind that I already been living here for years.
What do you do around here?
Do? I don't do anything. I'm retired.
So what'd you do before you were retired?
I was a soldier. Why do you even care? I came out here to forget about the past, so quit bringing it up.
I got bad news about the next thing I'm going to say then. Arcade and I were looking for you. We're gathering the remnants.
Been a while, Arcade. So, what's the point of all this? Can't find any younger mercenaries?
Your advanced level of tech would be useful in settling things between the NCR and the Legion.
Is that right? The million-dollar question is, who exactly are we settling?
Do you have a preference?
I wouldn't mind cutting down a few platoons of NCR troopers with my old Gatling laser.
Are you coming to this thing or what?
Oh, I'll come. But depending on the plan, I might not be staying. Keep that in mind. Arcade might have mentioned there's a passphrase needed to get into the bunker. My part is remember.
What did you do when you were with the Enclave?
Heavy weapons trooper. Nothing better than hosing down a target with an excess of bullets and laser fire. By the time I got through with things, not much was left standing. Any morons who didn't run when they saw me coming got what they deserved. Back then, it was war. If we'd been on the winning side, I'd be called a hero.
I don't think I like
Moreno
that guy.
took the fall of the Enclave hard. He never questioned his orders, never questioned the legitimacy of what the Enclave was doing. To him, it was all one unbroken chain, from Washington to Richardson. When we left Navarro, I remember looking up at Moreno. He said, "Kiss America goodbye, boys." When we left the Enclave behind, the love in him burned itself out. Now there's just a bitter old man left.
A man should know when to let go.
It's been decades, you know. By now, he's been out of the Enclave longer than he was in. Most people know when to hang it up and start over. But not Moreno.
Wow, another decrepit old relic of old America that's stuck in its ways and to the point of being self-defeating. I would never expect something like that from Fallout New Vegas. Why would they ever come up with a single faction that way? So he's definitely my least favorite character so far, because he's the one that apparently didn't question the Enclave. The other guy that rocked the boat more is encouraging. Funny thing is that when I rocked the boat in Fallout 4 for 5 seconds, I instantly got kicked out of the entire storyline and then had to just go hang out with Preston now. And get the Preston ending. It really frustrated me that so obviously the Enclave was in the wrong in Fallout 4, but you couldn't actually call them out on it or talk to them about it. Maybe you can eventually in a very specific interaction at some point, but like the game I was playing kept sending me on increasingly distressing missions to the point where eventually it's like, hey, kidnap this guy, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna kidnap that guy. Well, I guess you failed the entire storyline then. Oh. Okay. They didn't think to have like a system for like you getting in trouble when you don't behave the way they want you to or something.
West side, huh? I passed through here with another follower a while back, Anderson. The locals were having a lot of trouble getting water through.
These games can be so built around the idea of like, at any point outside of combat, you can just go, ha!
I could use a doc.
And just make any choices you want to in the gameplay. But then Fallout 4 wasn't really built for the idea of you making those kinds of choices, because it just doesn't have an interesting outcome if you do. So I think I've heard of West Side. I don't think I've ever been here before. I think I just discovered an entirely new area.
You don't strike me as someone down on their luck. What brings you to West Side?
Oh, you're the person I'm looking for. What do you do in West Side?
I help tend the crops, stand watch for fiends, and generally help keep things civilized.
How long have you been in West Side?
Couple of years now. I was a trader for a while, but got tired of all the walking. West Side was a good place to settle down as any.
Arcade asked me to find you. I'm gathering the remnants.
Hello, Arcade. Making some new friends, are you? Why the need for a bunch of old war horses like us?
You'd be the element of surprise.
Swooping in on a vertibird, guns blazing? Haven't done that in years, but all right, I'm in. None of this means a thing if the rest of the group doesn't show up, though. Oh, and you'll need my part of the passphrase to get into the bunker. Navarro.
Tell me about the old days with the Enclave.
I miss those days sometimes. We all had a purpose, you know? I admit that some of the folks in charge were pretty ruthless. The rest of us, though, we were just trying to civilize things. The NCR was still new, and it didn't look like they'd last all that long. Then we lost the oil rig, and shortly after that, the base at Navarro. Nobody left except us remnants.
What happened to the Enclave oil rig in Navarro?
Internal sabotage took down the oil rig. Never did get the full story. The NCR took out Navarro, saying we posed a threat to the region.
I'd like to know more about your former squad.
I was the officer in charge, and Johnson and Moreno were my heavy hitters. Henry handled tech things, and Whitman flew the chopper. Johnson and Moreno never got along, and I had my hands full keeping those two apart some days. It was a difference in philosophy, mostly. Mercy was not part of Moreno's vocabulary. Uh-huh.
Anything new happen?
Judah Krieger is the glue that's kept us all together over the years, and with good reason. Anyone who can command Moreno and Johnson in the same unit without somebody getting fragged is one hell of a leader. Krieger was polite and kind, but never warm. He always did his best to make me feel welcome in the group. I think he did it out of a sense of loyalty to my father. Loyalty means a lot to Judah. Not loyalty to the Enclave, or even the ideals they fought for, but to the people who served with him.
That's their story, Arcade. Not yours.
Oh, I know. I was only a boy when they went through hell together. I'm glad you're helping me reunite them. Even if I'm still just a spectator in all of this, I know they can still do some good.
This map, I know this map's just full of places I haven't been to, but hello. I've gone like everywhere around this, but never found this exact location, I guess. Does make me wonder if there's like more named characters to meet around here. I'll have to come by again after the storyline's done with and see what I find.